Next up in our journey to preview all 30 teams in the NBA is a team that I deeply, deeply believe in, and it is the Indiana Pacers, a team that was in the NBA Finals Game 7 2 years ago against the Oklahoma City Thunder and probably would have won that game if Tyrese Haliburton had not gone down with an Achilles injury. And this current team, I actually like a little better than I did that team a few years ago when they went on that magical playoff run where Tyrese Haliburton was hitting some of the most unbelievable game-winning shots you're ever going to see. It was an incredible playoff run. They were so much fun to watch. Really just, an underrated NBA Finals run. If they could have capped that off with one of these, it would have been truly magical. But I think they are very alive in the Eastern Conference this upcoming season. And in fact, they may end up being my pick when I do my official, season picks preview as we get a little closer to the season. There's still a few free agency pieces, potential trades that could happen. So I'm holding off a little bit. But right now I'm leaning the Indiana Pacers as my pick to come out of the Eastern Conference. And you may say, why is that? Well, they replaced a player in Miles Turner who did some good things for them, has done some weird things afterwards, didn't play very good for the Milwaukee Bucks last year, with a player in Zubac who I am a huge fan of. And Pacers fans will really learn to love this player, especially when he's playing next to Tyrese Haliburton. In 2024, 2025, I want to focus on that season because last year they kind of sat him out as they were, trying to improve their draft odds. But he played 80 games. He's been a guy who, he's reliable to be on the court. He averaged 16.8 points, 12.6 rebounds on 62.8% from the field. And you may say Miles Turner was a good basketball player for them. Miles Turner in that year averaged 15.6 points, 6.5 rebounds, 48% from the field. So you're talking about a player in Zubac who's a considerably better rebounder, considerably more efficient from the field, and will really provide a better big man presence, in my opinion, than Miles Turner was able to provide for them. Now, Miles Turner, was a good three-point shooter for a big man, and Zubac obviously can't do that. But I do think you're taking a position that is very important when you have a point guard like Tyrese Haliburton, a guy who, last year he played, averaged 9.2 assists per game, guy who's averaged 10 assists a game in his career, for seasons in his career, and put in a very high-level big man beside him. I think that's going to spell a lot of success for the Indiana Pacers. Now, obviously, the big question mark is how will Tyrese Haliburton look coming back from his Achilles injury? That's always a huge question mark, the Achilles injury in particular. But because he's starting the season off, I think he'll really have time to ramp up, get back into shape, and you'll see, a little closer to that finals Tyrese Haliburton as we get later in the season. So if the Pacers have a bit of a slow start, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But the other thing that you got to love is we've seen improvements from some of their other players because last year, a lot of these guys had opportunities to take on bigger roles. A guy like Andrew Nembhard went from 10 points per game, 5 assists per game 2 years ago to last year averaging 16.9 points per game, 7.7 assists per game. So you're talking about a guy who took a 7-point per game jump, 2.5 assists per game jump. That will be huge playing next to Haliburton again. And they have a proven forward in Pascal Siakam, an all NBA level player, all-star level player. He averaged 24 a game last year, 6.6 rebounds. And what I love so much about this Pacers team, and it's what I have been criticized a lot for, is that I really like when team construction makes sense to me. I think we see it with champions year after year, the way that the Knicks were constructed, the Oklahoma City Thunder a few years ago, the Boston Celtics. Those teams together made a lot of sense. And when I come out and say that I don't think this Philadelphia 76ers team makes sense to me, a lot of people don't agree because they just look at, their talent on paper. And to me, that's not the way that you build a basketball team. I think you build it by making sure those pieces can fit and play side by side. And it's another reason that I don't believe in the Miami Heat. You're talking about having Giannis and Bam, but then their guard play is probably the worst in the NBA or on the short list of worst guard play in the NBA. How can I believe that that team is a real finals threat with what we've seen in the modern NBA? And you look around the Eastern Conference, and so many teams have flaws. I mean, the Detroit Pistons haven't even re-signed Jalen Duren. We don't know what's going to happen with that. The Indiana Pacers have a really, really solid basketball squad that fit together well. We've seen it fit together really well, and you're replacing Miles Turner with Zubac. And I think that's actually an upgrade for them. You're bringing in Kelly Oubre, who, they had Benedict Mathurin. You lose him in the trade to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, I believe he's still a free agent. We'll see what happens there. If there's any chance he tries to return to the Pacers, I don't know. But you have a player in Kelly Oubre who last year for the Sixers averaged 14 a game, provided some of that scoring factor. So I think he'll be able to replace Benedict Mathurin in a way. He's a veteran player that can score the basketball at a high level off the bench. This Pacers team makes a lot of sense to me. So you're going to have Tyrese Haliburton, Zubac, Pascal Siakam, Nembhard. Nesmith took a step forward last year, 13.8 a game. We know for his career he shoots 38% from the three-point line. 2 years ago when they made the finals, I think he was over 40%. Last year he shot like 38%. So, your starting five is really quality, and they fit together really, really well. And if you want to say that you like Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid better than that, I'm just going to disagree with the fit on that. And it might be crazy to say. I may list those names, and you may think that, I'm just wrong. But I believe that basketball fit really matters in the modern NBA, and I think that that's been proven. And I think it's important that we continue to learn year after year. What you'll see a lot of big national media members continue to do is pick the team with the most star power, pick the team with the most hype. Well, it's important to remember that team fit and chemistry is just as important, if not more important, than just having big names. And I think the Pacers are a team that'll prove that this upcoming year. And to go a little deeper into their lineup, Obi Toppin, a player that we really like coming off the bench, averages 12 and 4 a game. Really dynamic, athletic, can do a lot of nice things. They brought in Larry Nance. He was a free agent. I think he played for the Cavs last year. Obviously, they have TJ McConnell, Jarris Walker. We love TJ McConnell as a backup point guard. He's scrappy. Kind of plays basketball the right way. Love his mid-range shot. Seems lethal. And then Jarris Walker averaged 12 points a game last year. And, Jay Huff as, another center for them. And then, they got, was it Furphy? He tore his ACL, I think it was 6 months ago. So I don't know if he'll play this upcoming season. But the Indiana Pacers, I really, really like this team on paper. I love their coach and Rick Carlisle. We've seen them in the playoffs make a deep run to the NBA Finals and almost get that Larry O'Brien trophy. So everything that I can think of for a basketball team heading into a season, the Pacers check those boxes, and that's really important to me as someone who, studies the game, has watched the game for a long time. I deeply care about everything that the Pacers have done to build their team. Again, it does come down a lot to how does Tyrese Haliburton look at the beginning of the season? As the season progresses, is he able to return to that pre-injury form? Because we've seen guys with Achilles injuries just frankly not be able to reach that prior form. But I do think that Tyrese Haliburton is young enough, and he's a hard-working guy. In the offseason, I think I just saw a video of him doing like a through-the-legs dunk. So it does seem like he's progressing nicely and getting some of that athleticism, some of that bounce back. I know he dealt with a weird, medical issue that kind of made him look a little chubbier. But I do think that Tyrese Haliburton is going to return to form as one of the best pure point guards in the NBA, if not the best. A guy who can score when you need him to, and a guy who can pass the ball at a all-time level. One of the best passers of the basketball we've seen, this century in the last 25 years. So I can't wait to watch this Pacers team this upcoming season. They're absolutely a threat to return to the NBA Finals in an Eastern Conference where the Knicks lost Mitchell Robinson, already hit on the Sixers and the Heat. The Celtics lost Jaylen Brown, replaced him with Paul George. The Magic are a little iffy. The Cavs haven't re-signed James Harden, but there's a lot of question marks, especially with how they went out in the playoffs. The Pistons, we don't know with Jalen Duren. The Eastern Conference has a ton of question marks. There's a ton of talent there, but a ton of question marks with how each team is built. And for the Pacers, as far as roster construction, I have no question marks. My only one is Tyrese Haliburton and how he can return post-injury. That is all we got for you today. If you love the NBA, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. We'll be covering a ton of Pacers games this year and also trying to preview all 30 teams in the NBA. We've done quite a few of them so far. So appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Several guys.